Okay, so this flow is going to look really complicated for beginners, but I would still consider this a beginner ring flow because everything you're going to learn by learning this choreographed sequence is going to help you along your journey when you're starting off on the rings. It'll build mobility, flexibility, strength, and just awareness, and also just help you get comfortable with your face being very close to the ground in your transitions. So I'm going to start by leaning forward. I'm back behind the rings a bit, and I'm going to punch a very deep false grip as I sissy squat down to my knees onto the ground. Then I'm going to pop up and really work that ankle extension as I arch my back, and then use that muscle up transition to pop up over my toes. I'm going to lower myself with a Hefesto negative, and here is where I release the false grip and switch to a regular grip. Notice my butt was in between my arms. That makes it very easy to lift your legs off the ground, and then hook your feet in the rings, and then drive the hips down as I lift my chin up and really get that deep back arch. You might have to move your thumb out of the way a little there so your feet don't crush your thumb, but no big deal. So now what I'm doing here is try to just make sure that when you kick your leg over and rotate your body, try to just roll it so that your wrist is down by your hips. It's going to make it a lot safer on your elbows and pretty simple. Now to come back out of the notice I put my butt in between my arms and then I lift my legs. So as a beginner, that's going to make it a lot easier for you to lift your legs up off the floor because it will not require any bit of that lever strength. Vertical body trunk is going to be a lot easier for you to lift your legs up. When I do the straddle and I do this, all my transitions are going to be with my ankle on my wrist. That's going to make it a lot easier. And then finally here, I'm just doing a hang with the L sit and tucking my knees to the chest. Again, vertical trunk. So the only time your feet ever come off the floor in this flow is when your trunk is vertical, whether inverted or, right side up. And that makes it a lot easier because it's much easier to get your feet off the floor when your body is vertical. So what you see here, again, I'm going to lean down, false grip, and then I'm going to sissy squat over my toes with laces down, working my ankle extension as I drive up and then work my back arch. Now I'm going to come up, and now watch, I widen my knees here as I do the Hefesto to allow myself the mobility of the bent knees to then drive my head between my legs. It's very important to bend your knees slightly as you're trying to gain this mobility here and really shove your head into your legs. What that's going to do is it's going to help you cheat the mobility. So anytime I'm going to transition, like you see me doing here, what I'm generally going to be doing is driving my knees to my face with bent knees, so it'll be a lot easier to get my knees close to my face. And I try to really compress my body and keep pulling my knees into my face as I straighten out my legs. And that will allow you to get much, much deeper into the stretch and appear almost double as flexible. It's crazy. It'll be a huge eye-opener how much more flexible you will appear as long as you enter it with bent knees into the pike and then drive those knees into your face. And when you get as deep as you can, try to really struggle to keep your knees up against your head and then drive your legs straight. You will get so much more out of stretching that way. Something to note here, just try to go slowly. When you saw me widen my legs out, spread my legs out into the straddle with that rotating, candlestick straddle. It's really important that when you hook the leg around the strap, go very slowly, and because otherwise you'll just swing like crazy. So it's very important to move slowly there. Now the other aspect that I want to talk about here, so obviously we're working back arch and back hollow. So we're working both positions of the spine for spinal health as we move in transition. We're working on our ankles, all that. But what I'm also wanting you to notice how close my head is to the ground there. And again, notice how I'm tucking my head between my knees with bent legs. What I want from this flow is I want you to get comfortable to hanging the rings at a place where your head just barely grazes or passes like maybe an inch above the ground when you are in a standard grip. So don't do this. Don't set the height of the rings when you are in a false grip, because then when you release to a standard grip after that initial feet on the ground muscle up sequence with the Hefesto, what will happen is if you go from false grip to regular grip and you're only an inch above the ground, your head will smack the ground. But if you set your grip with a regular grip and then do it in false grip, that false grip is much higher, and that way you won't hit your head on the ground. Such a large aspect of working on the low rings is getting comfortable with your face being very close to the ground. So I highly recommend that you work on these things and get used to your face passing by the ground very close without smacking your face. So what was funny here is I tore a blister on my hand, so I slipped off the rings because my hand was bleeding and there's blood all over the rings. I always hurt myself on the beginner flows. Go figure. Love you guys. Thanks.